Campaign 2018 is sponsored by Wisconsin Hospital Association, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin Realtors Association, Marshfield Clinic Health System, AARP Wisconsin, and Campaign 2018 partner Milwaukee Journal Sentinel.
Ken Holdorf of Marinette is a Democrat running in the 89th Assembly District. Ken, welcome to WisconsinEye.
Thank you for having me, Steve.
Now, you say on your website that one of your top priority, if not the top priority, is clean water. Why is that such a big issue in the 89th and with you?
Absolutely, it's a primary issue of mine. It was my main motivator for running. This is something that is very new to me, running for state assembly. And so when I talk to people, what they see is what they get. And I answer any questions that my constituents give me with relative accuracy, as much as I know. If I don't know the full answer, I always tell people that I would get back to them with the answer. But getting back to the water. Our water is under duress from various different pollution sources throughout the state. And particularly in the 89th Assembly District, there is a very contentious issue that is known as the Back 40 mine. This is an open pit sulfide mine on the Michigan side of the border that's set up to be on the banks of the Menominee River, about 150 feet. And people are concerned about their water sources for drinking, and also, in addition to drinking, when you look at the landscape of the northern part of the 89th Assembly District in particular, there are areas that are prime territory for those who love outdoor activities, i.e. the outdoorsmen and women. Hunting, fishing, camping, boating, these are activities that are very prevalent in the Michigan UP as well as in northeastern Wisconsin. And so hunters and fishermen are worried about the water source because of these activities. They depend on clean water to go fishing. It's unsafe to catch fish in contaminated water. Then you develop health issues. But in terms of hunting, people like to go deer hunting. Deer hunting season is fast approaching, and I would venture to guess that hunters would love to find deer alive and then shoot it, and not finding it already dead from drinking toxic water.
Well, my question is, you said the mine is in Michigan. What
Yes.
could you, as one member of the Assembly, do you want to stop it, or do you want it better regulated, excuse me?
I would prefer to stop it, but if it's not stopped, then there would be stringent regulation that I would prefer on that. And keep in mind, the Back 40 mine affects boundary water. Menominee River flows from Michigan down into Wisconsin, all the way down to the Green Bay and out into Lake Michigan. So 2 states are involved. And so when it comes to boundary waters, that is what I believe should have been a federal issue. And the EPA, the U.S. EPA, should have been the permitting authority, not the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality. And the Wisconsin DNR was informed of this, but did nothing.
Okay.
And our legislature did nothing. Our current leadership did nothing. So now we have 3 legal petitions by other organizations and any private person that are related to the Back 40 mine. And among other things, the petition is in regards to boundary water.
Right. I understand. Let's talk about issues in the next state budget. How would you break the impasse, the gridlock in the Capitol over how we pay for our highways in the future?
Well, the highways and roads are funded by a mix of federal, state funds, and bonding. What is problematic right now is the bonding, because since from 2010 to the end of fiscal year 2019, the debt payment is expected to double. In 2010, the payment was the debt was 11.5%, and it is expected to reach just under 22%. And this is according to the Legislative Fiscal Bureau.
Mm-hmm. So, would you raise gas tax, raise the $75 you and I pay to register a vehicle, or would you support tolling?
Well, what's interesting about that is, remember I mentioned that I attend local government meetings, town boards, village board, and county board meetings. And one of the interesting tidbits that I found out was there was a petition by the Wisconsin Town Association to raise the gas tax in order to pay for roads. So there are entities that are wanting a gas tax. Is it an answer? Well, it's one answer, and I would support that as a solution. If any other better funding sources are not found. Okay. I would like to see if there would be better funding sources found first before raising the gas tax.
Local governments have been living with levy limits to control property taxes for maybe 14 years. Local government leaders, some of them say that hurts their ability to provide local services. Mm-hmm. Do we keep levy limits, loosen them, dial them back, or get rid of them?
Well, before we had levy limits, municipalities were pretty much in line with state budgets, approximately. Mm-hmm. They had to be frugal, but they were able to do what they had to do in order to maintain their roads, cut the grass. These are things that are more limiting now with the levy limits, because levy limits are municipalities are captivated by net new construction.
Yes, it's capped to net new construction.
And they can raise their tax levy based on net new construction.
Yes.
Net new construction increases the size of the pie, if you will. But without net new construction, their levy limit is zero. And so those communities that have zero levy limits, they are saddled with only doing what they can with the monies they have in hand already. Now, again, going back to attending these local government meetings, I come to find out that a couple of towns pooled their resources together. One had equipment, and the other had some other equipment, and they both shared in the cost of paving a 2-mile stretch of road that they shared. So sharing costs and resources is one thing that these smaller communities have done and are continuing to do in order to do what they have to do with the resources that are within their capacity. But now we look at more remote communities, small towns, that maybe don't have the luxury of sharing costs and resources with a neighboring community. They rely on borrowing. And when they do that, the danger that they face is reaching their debt limit. And so without a net new construction, and most small towns have very little net new construction, i.e. building of new homes. So what do? They borrow money. They pool their resources. I would say that if we were able to live without levy limits before, I would say to completely get rid of them.
Okay. You say affordable health care is an issue on your campaign website. What's your thought of how we protect and expand health care in rural Wisconsin?
Well, you have these rural health clinics that provide health care to those rural communities that don't have direct access to big hospitals like the larger metropolitan areas do. So that I see as a key to getting health care to people in rural communities. And also, Badger Care and Medicaid. Many small farmers depend on Badger Care for their primary health care insurance. So expanding Badger Care, which was not done when there was an opportunity to do so, would have helped many of those struggling farmers, possibly. Because remember, and farmers are, family farms is one of my other major issues on my website. Mm-hmm. And there's a disturbing trend of loss of dairy farms here in Wisconsin. This year, we lost more dairy farms since 2013, and that's a disturbing trend. And another disturbing trend is the fact that Western Wisconsin led the nation in farm-related bankruptcies, mostly family farmers. And that's a disturbing trend. We need to turn the tide around for the people that feed the rest of us.
Okay. Are you hearing, as you campaign, that our Medicaid reimbursement rates are too low? You're hearing that from hospitals and medical providers. Are we at a tipping point with our Medicaid reimbursement rates, or haven't you heard much about that issue?
I haven't heard much about that, to tell you the truth, but that would be worth researching and finding out the answer to that.
Do you have any of the pilot dental clinics that are co-funded by state government and Delta Dental in your district, in your proposed district? There's a pilot program. Are you familiar with it at all?
Not familiar with it, and I'm not sure that we have those clinics within the 89th Assembly District.
Okay. Foxconn got major tax benefits, tax breaks. Now Kimberly-Clark wants similar tax breaks. When should state government help private businesses?
A precedent has been set with the Foxconn tax giveaway. Let me preface Foxconn and how the $4 billion in tax giveaway is only a tipping point of the cost of Foxconn. Everything that we've seen in terms of bills that were passed in the past year or two centered around Foxconn. Repeal of the Proof of First law. Remember, Foxconn is a technology company. They rely on minerals to manufacture their products. So repealing the Proof of First law opens the floodgates for sulfide mining, and it creates a pathway toward Foxconn receiving the minerals that they require for manufacturing. So that is what I see as a Foxconn issue. Closing of wetlands was Foxconn, because Foxconn wanted exceptions to our wetland rules. The problem with closing wetlands, I already mentioned about the hunters. On a more practical aspect, many communities depend on wetlands for their flood control aspects of their stormwater management programs.
Yes.
So now these affected communities are going to be looking at revisiting their stormwater management programs and figuring out what they're going to do for flood control at an extra cost to those communities.
Would you have voted against both the Foxconn and the Kimberly-Clark tax breaks?
Absolutely.
Okay. The current state budget included more than $600 million more in state aid for K-12 public schools. When local schools, principals and teachers and superintendents say they need a similar big increase in the next budget, do you think they do? Or are public schools still underfunded?
I believe that public schools are still underfunded. The amount raised per student is a drop in the bucket compared to what was cut dating back to 2010. Approximately $1 billion has been cut from our public schools. Now, keep in mind that public schools are funded by property taxes, state aid, and two other sources, fees, any fees.
There's also a few federal dollars in there too.
Yeah, and some federal dollars.
Right.
So when state aid is cut and federal aid is cut, there's a heavier reliance on property taxes. But now school districts are subject to levies as well too. There are limits to that.
Yeah.
But school districts also utilize ballot referendums for funding special projects that they want to pay for. And then they ask the taxpayer, will you support this referendum so we can pay to complete this project?
Right.
But they are limited on that as well too. So schools are still overall underfunded.
Overall underfunded. Do you support the voucher, the choice program that lets some K-12 students go to private schools using a state voucher?
No, I don't. And the way that funding works between public and private vouchers, private vouchers and public schools receive funding for a child that enrolls in their school.
Yes.
Now, if a child is enrolled into a private voucher, that private voucher is funded for that child. If the parent decided that they're going to remove their child from that private voucher school back into public schools, the funding does not follow the child. The funding stays with the private voucher. And that is concerning because the child doesn't benefit, the voucher school does.
Okay. Do you support legalizing recreational or medical marijuana?
Yes. I believe
on
that
both counts?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe that many people suffer from pain for whatever reason. A lot of elderly people suffer from pain, arthritis and other conditions that these, and other people that are much younger suffer from pain, maybe from an automobile accident that now they have chronic pain, and so medical marijuana I see as a alternative to opioids, for a possible alternative for opioids for pain management for those people. Okay. And then also there's an opportunity for creating revenue by legalizing marijuana. And so we need to grab onto that opportunity, especially in times when funding is at a premium.
Then final question, differences between you and the incumbent you're challenging on November 6th?
Well, the main issue that separates us is the water and mining issue. He is clearly for mining. Otherwise, he wouldn't have voted for the repealing of the Prove It First law. And I am against mining. I believe that we need to put our people first, and that includes protecting their drinking water.
Okay.
So that's the primary issue that separates me from my opponent.
Thank you. Ken Holdorf of Marinette is a Democrat running in the 89th Assembly District. The election is November 6th. Ken, thanks for talking to WisconsinEye.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks.
Campaign 2018 is sponsored by Wisconsin Hospital Association, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin Realtors Association, Marshfield Clinic Health System, AARP Wisconsin, and Campaign 2018 partner Milwaukee Journal Sentinel.